Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm finally back home and settled in. Now, there are a few extremely important words to say at the start of this video. This setup requires almost zero additional investment from a normal Mirage, so use at your own discretion. Now, do not use this setup with Hall of Malevolence, and do not use your Sentinel to prime Electric for you. Both of these are the most commonly known ways to guarantee your game will crash with what I'm showing you today. Okay, with that out of the way, this is a newly discovered superpowered map nuke setup for Mirage. There's a lot to unpack here, but basically I will show you how to map nuke with weapons and abilities today. Will this get patched? Well, you can decide for yourself, but as I said, zero additional investment. Before some of you get your panties in a bunch of me showcasing this, just know that I've been told there are two other creators that are already working on a video of this exact interaction as well, and I expect they'll be posting their own videos later today. Therefore, yes, people were going to see this either way, whether from me or someone else. So about 24 hours ago, I had someone in the build server tag me with a clip of an Amprex doing this. Hundreds of electric procs, even thousands, easily. I'll cut out all the testing for you. We discovered that Mirage's clones can trigger melee influence from any source of your entire loadout and not just melees, and also any source can benefit from them. Also, your melee build doesn't matter. This only occurs when our clones are active, and it even extends to nuking abilities too, which we will discuss later. The most important part was how to take advantage of this. The most obvious answer, as shown, was Amprex, a chain electric beam weapon. Phantasma was also another top pick, because it could easily apply a ton of electric procs, and add relatively high damage per stack for a bullet hose, since it was a beam. It also benefited from beam multi-shot mechanics just like Amprex, so big PP electric damage. Now, this was the Amprex setup I used, nothing special, but I wanted to take this a step further. We already know that melee influence can taxi melee traits such as Vulcan Blitz, Amalgam Argonac, Metal Auger, and etc. If Mirage clones can make melee influence work with guns, then what is stopping it from triggering gun-related augments, with the obvious choice being Sobek acid shells? While this may seem similar to the Saren Vulcan Blitz influence I showed last week, there are some key differences. Yes, your Sobek can benefit from and trigger influence despite being unable to see the timer when doing so with a gun. However, unlike the Saren showcase, your clones are also independently able to trigger their own melee influence procs. Since 2 clones out of the 4 shoot with you on gun DPS, you will build statuses 3 times faster on guns with Mirage than a melee Saren could, and this is excluding the fact that melees can't even hit as fast as guns. Additionally, Acid Shells has a much larger blast radius than Vulcan Blitz. This is great that melee influence can trigger such a big percent HP AoE when enemies die to influence his electric proc spread. But wait, what if we want to take this setup even further? Enter Emerald Shards by putting 2 Emerald Shards on Mirage. Now any gun can full strip just by shooting enemies. This full strip is multiplied by melee influence and our clone shots, making it much easier to reach 14 corrosive procs, and by extension spread those 14 corrosive procs in a 20-meter radius. Therefore, just by shooting, Mirage instantly strips in a 20-meter radius and kills enemies, triggering acid shell explosions on everything within 20 meters. This lets us delete entire rooms. So let's look at those builds. This is a stock Hall of Mirrors Mirage. There's nothing special going on here whatsoever. I even went with Hell Tank with Adaptation Arcane Blessing for ease of use, but your damage mechanics will scale infinitely. High damage means little time spent on recasting and arcane tempos because I don't have fire rate on my Sobek. Of course, if you can fit fire rate on, this slot is free. Full quality of life build with no extra bells and whistles. Feel free to even use whatever helmet you want. As a reminder, do not use Hall of Malevolence or a Sentinel with Electric Primer, as both of those can crash your game. Radar is because we kill so much and so fast that we need to know where to head next. 30 meter built in is honestly not enough for this nuke setup. One thing do consider though is Roar will multiply Acid Shell's percent HP explosion damage. Now the Sobek build is pure corrosive. I don't have electric on it because I want to maximize the corrosive weight to guarantee enemies die instantly from stacking 14 corrosive procs as fast as possible. Otherwise, well, I mean, you can't get corrosive and electric on the same build on a gun. We have Punch Through to prime crowds more easily, and the Prime Cleanse will multiply the Acid Shell's explosion by 1.55, scaling for 70% overall HP damage. If you choose to also bring Roar, then this guarantees a single Acid Shell explosion can kill enemies that are 200 plus strength, since it will boost to over 100% HP damage as AoE in a 15 meter radius, though do note that falloff exists. Galvanized Savvy is just for more base damage from statuses, but also makes it easier to apply Corrosive. Tactical Pump for snappy reloads, and that's it. Gas your clones in Eclipse optional, Roar optional, Point and shoot, watch entire tile die. Run around shooting until buffs drop and then recast them to reset. As the most consistent primer for Sobek, I just brought a Xoris. It force procs electric in a massive 12-meter AoE, easily triggering melee influence. While you don't need Xoris for Amprex or Phantasma DPS, the Sobek setup I used is pure corrosive and carries no electric to activate influence. Using Xoris is also easy since melee has instant swap, unlike holstering guns. I don't really care how you build your Xoris, but this setup does work quite well. If your gun directly has electric, you do not even need to mod your melee at all. Your gun will be able to proc influence directly so long as Mirage clones are active. You can optionally bring a Nautilus Cordon Manifold setup, but because of how hard Sobek nukes, I'm unsure if it'll be able to proc properly. Perhaps on a beam DPS like Amprex or Phantasma it can work better via viral electric modding and using either the Radiation Gun mod from Whispers in the Wall or Hunch Munitions to get the third status needed to spam activate Manifold Bond. So, for the other half of this video, remember how I said the clones allow anything to proc melee influence? Including abilities, and that melee influence taxis off of the original melee source? This turns Legerdemain Mirage into a map-wide nuke. While 2 Emerald Shards are not mandatory because the alternative is using a Dagger melee and an Argonac so that your Legerdemain explosions can proc Amalgam Argonac Metal Auger, it is recommended for ease of use if you don't want to be restricted by these choices. Now, the biggest contributor to this is Archon continuity. Every time a Toxin Trap procs and applies Corrosive, it will reapply the Corrosive proc in a 20-meter radius around the target struck by the trap. With Amalgam Argonac Metal Auger, you easily shred all armor off, but even if you don't pick a Dagger, even without Emerald Shards, you still instantly get 10 Corrosive stacks, and with 2 Shards, well, you instantly hit 14 stacks, which is a full strip. So, due to higher enemy density and Steel Path, this leads to a very easy 14 Corrosive stacks, or Amalgam Argonac Metal Augers full stripping everything. Electric procs will also be mirrored and apply mass electric chaining for high stacks, as well as heat traps applying 2 stacks per hit due to Archon Vitality while constantly refreshing stacks the full duration. With no armor, electric and heat spam is enough to kill everything. Archon Flow is a token bonus you might as well slap on for some possible extra energy orb, since it is now possible for enemies to die to cold traps if they are full stripped. Roar will make these procs double dip their damage, on this setup reaching nearly 300 strength for 90% roar, double dip for 3.6 times more damage. Enemy radar once again, since you'll be nuking so hard that you will want to know where the next enemies are. You can combine the setup with clones as well on my Sobek setup to destroy enemies in new areas so they drop loot that you can turn into bombs with Legerdemain again. Nautilus Cordon to drag enemies closer should proc quite often on a Legerdemain setup due to traps triggering constantly everywhere for free procs. Using either gun or ability setup today should be quite easy. The gun setup is literally just cast clones and go shoot around. Eclipse and Helmet, such as Roar, are a bonus. Reminder to not bring Hall of Malevolence or an Electric Sentinel Primer if you don't want your game to crash. For the ability nuke setup, you just kill some enemies, preferably with clone active again, so your guns can benefit from influence. Then just semi-camp the area and occasionally cast explosive Legerdemains with clones active to watch the entire map die. No need to gun DPS anymore unless you move to a new area. Then shoot a bit with clones to produce loot and semi-camp with Legerdemain again. Cheers! If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave a like or better yet subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. 79.5% of you are not subscribed. I'm trying my best to get new information out always as soon as possible, like I've done with the Whispers in the Wall updates. Stick around if you want to see interesting memes and builds on a nearly daily basis. You don't want to miss out on any of that, do you? That'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching and see you all next time.